hear me? Just stand and then talk. So I think the previous three panelists, they gave a good description of, specifically on the distribution sector, what all things are happening, especially in the area of APGRP, what are things we can expect out of that in terms of reforms, in terms of IT and so on. So I'll try to, the time which I have, I'll try to spend most of the time on those areas which, some of the things which are not covered, some of the things which, are really challenges in terms of the roadmap of implementing these kind of solutions and bringing the viability of the distribution system. So just stepping back, from where Rajat left and just going back to the drivers and just adding up to, what are some of the key things, key drivers which are actually shaping the Indian distribution sector, especially, and of course, has a big implication on the generation as well. So the first thing, of course, is, boys are talking about the financial system. That's big. Financial sustainability is at risk, and therefore, that is driving the whole sector, and therefore the back of the supply chain, the energy supply. So that's the second thing is, we're talking about a lot of investments, and that we term it under the resource efficiency. Now that's very important. Now any amount of under resourcing in terms of investment, in terms of people, that will have a far big implication on the future of the economy. So today it really requires huge modernization. For example, generation we talked about, generation requires about 4,000 megawatt, about $1 billion. Now that's a lot of money. And we are having huge plans of investment in generation. Likewise, in other APDRP, there is a huge amount of investment. That is all dependent on the focus of the government. So there's a need to have a continued investment. Workforce challenges we talked about. Yes. If you see most of the distribution side from 72 onwards, there has been very little, infusion of fresh blood in the system, and also a lot of people are going to retire in the years. So where does that knowledge come? So that's a big gap, and that's why IT can play this critical role, and that really requires a lot of knowledge. Two things which have not been talked about but have a huge implication is climate. We all hear in newspapers climate is going to have impact. Climate will actually change climate and the regulatory impact. There are people today who believe that these two dimensions will have a far bigger impact than the whole question of climate. So can you actually do away with climate change? Because this is the cost of carbon. The impact of carbon and the cost of the carbon is better and better understood. It will have an impact on how you see the world. And one last thing which is really futuristic is what is popularly, Gartner terms this as energy technology consumerization. It's a very complex energy technology consumerization. Now what this means actually is that in the future it is expected that all the consumers, all the load centers, whether it is bulk consumers or whether it is end consumers like us, they themselves will become participants in the. Now what does that mean? What it means is that possibly as the peak demand rises, today there's a expected peak demand shortage of about 20%. That's a huge number. So with this kind of a shortage going up, there's a need to shave off this. So how does it happen? Now there are people who are saying that there's need to have distributed generation. Right? So whether you have specific generation centers which are along the grid, or have maybe individual homes as bulk generation centers. Individual homes have potential to become a load center, generation center. So new technologies are, whether it is solar, whether it is other renewables, photovoltaics, of course solar, wind, that's another one. Today, there are some experimentations that we started on how to use car as a source of generation and pushing power back into the grid. So those are kind of things they're saying that how can end consumers also become a source of power generation into the grid. Now that has a huge implication. If this kind of future situation does come up, then that has a huge implication on how the power supply will change. So it's a two-way flow of energy, and number two, it's a two-way flow of information. So supply demand planning of the entire grid of utilities. So if somebody wants, at a certain weather condition, certain amount of load, which is generation which is coming from the solar, that is implication of the grid planning. So those are things which are changing and will drive the new environment. So these are some of the key drivers which we are facing. A very interesting thing, I don't know how many of you have seen this. Sometime back, Ministry of Power came up with the National Solar Mission. Right? The whole aim of this mission is to, by 2020 have about 20,000 megawatt of, power coming from solar. And Gujarat has already started this. So there's a huge tract in the Kutch area which has been designated purely for solar. So that, time should come where there is a target for 2050 to have about 50,000 megawatt of power, 100,000 megawatt of power coming from solar. And that is going to change. So how the cost dynamics will change from the fossil to the solar as the impact of carbon cost better. So that's the energy technology consideration, how it will change in supply demand, how new sources of energy. But of course, to have all these good things coming in the future today, the reality is that today has to change. Now, how does energy change? And the first thing is that there are few integrations which have to happen, right? And few perspectives have to change. So if you see most of distribution companies, whether most of generation and transmission companies, there is a greater need to actually look at few different perspectives. Now, what are those perspectives? One is asset perspective. Now, let us talk of the fact that all the it's an asset heavy. Like, if you look at ISCOM, look at GENCOs, it's an asset heavy. So asset perspective has to change. Now assets have to be more integrated into the whole system. That's it. Second thing is the human perspective. Or maybe before that, the application perspective. So if you incorporate the asset into the system, integrate the system, you have the integration of the applications. Now what are those applications? Those applications are all things which we talked earlier. Those are all your regular applications. This is GIS, the metering billing collection, which is the bread and butter business of any utility. It is your automated metering systems. It is called AMR, somebody calls it AMR, somebody will call it the automated metering infrastructure or meter management, whichever way. But that's the infrastructure which is there. So these are some of the applications which are there. It will be all your the ERP, the CRM, how you connect to the how does utility connect to the consumers. So these are some office applications or the applications which are the core vertical applications of any utility. The next set of applications are what typically are field related. So we have a huge, if you just look at distribution, you have a huge set of people who are out there in the field, and they have no way of coming back into the subdivision and reporting any kind of issues and all. So that's the next level of perspective which we needs to look at, which is how to connect all these so many thousands of people. And a typical distribution company will have how many? Maybe if I look at India average, maybe 50,000, right? 50,000 people per discount. So that's nice. A huge set of people who are out there in the field who have no way of telling what they are doing. So how to connect those people? Right? So that's another dimension. So which is use various technologies, which is whether you say instant messaging or whether you say if they have a vehicle today, how to connect that vehicle back to the base computer station. So there are various ways of connecting. There are people who are in the substations, connect them. There are people who are in the field using for billing, so do spot billing, do all those good EMM projects and all. So connect all those people back. So there's a need today to have a look at the asset perspective and of course the office application perspective and integrate all this. The third is the human perspective, and I think enough I talked about that. We need to improve the capacities, improve the training, bring in new people, to kind of bring a very fresh. So that's it. And the last is of course how to connect this entire energy supply chain, which is today you're talking of what do you say energy home, which is a very futuristic scenario. How to connect that energy home, which is actually a possible source of energy generation, back into the grid. That's another perspective. So that fundamentally changes the complete utility. So if all these perspectives have to be brought in, first and foremost, the utility has to integrate itself, right? And this means integration of all the applications. And this is easier said than done. Now, one of the things which Goel sir and PFC has started is the APDF initiative. So very clearly, is saying this is my system requirement document. So that's an excellent document with there. It says that what it does is at least it by and large removes the headache of most of the utilities in crafting a tender. So they have done away with that productivity loss. They are saying that for the utilities in India, in the district sphere, this is a standard document which it's a neutral document. All utilities out of that. It's a recommendation also. Do this to ensure that you create an open, scalable architecture which can be used. So they have done, they drafted an excellent document, which I think not only it's good for the utilities, but I think even some of the other government departments should look at how they can imbibe the good practices which our sector has come into. So they have drafted an SRS. It says that there are certain implementation agencies, and they have about 24 implementation agencies as system integrators, and they will be responsible for all future bits. Number two, they have also designated people for implementation of specific utility applications. For example, meeting billing connection, or the AMR, AMN, the meter data acquisition part, and of course the GIS part. So these are things, and apart from that, all the network. These are core components of any implementation to bring down the energy, at least identifying all the losses. Now, there are of course challenges in implementation, and there are significant challenges. For example, if you just take up GIS, now to start off, any utility will say that I need to identify that who are my consumers. Can all the utilities say that, or most of the utilities? There are some utilities which are very exactly know who are the consumers. But there are a lot of utilities response which still don't know exactly who are my consumers. Identify. So for that, craft out and have a good, GIS application which identifies exactly who are the consumers along with the meeting billing connections. So identify that. Now easier said than done. How many people, how many vendors do they have this kind of experience? How many people have actually executed this kind of work? Very few. Maybe in the country as of now, 40 lakh consumers have been on the consumer fixing and GIS. So very few people have. Now here's a state like Rajasthan, which is saying that whosoever has to come in has to do a GIS consumer indexing of 60-80 lakh consumers. So certainly the scaling up, that's a huge challenge. How many vendors in the country have got skilled, people who can do good mapping, good survey? So that's a huge challenge. So that's a startup. Secondly, if you have to do a good implementation of a meeting billing collection solution, you need to get all the data which is there in the past. Again, a huge challenge. So that's a few things about how GIS, implementation of GIS. While it's a very good initiative, there are challenges, there are capacity challenges, and there are implementation challenges. So all those things. Today we are talking of AMR, automated meeting infrastructure. Now, for people who are a little less than aware, this in very essence means that you get all the metering data from the end consumer and put it into the base market distribution of the utility. It's in a very rudimentary format shape. And there's a lot of value in it. Just like telecom. I mean, if I'm making a phone call, exactly the telecom operator knows what was the duration of the call, all those things. In the same way, all the information which the consumer has at their end, all that information will go to you. Now that's an excellent thing. But then what it means is that you would need to actually implement AMR kind of a solution for HT consumers, bulk consumers, or maybe commercial consumers, those kind of consumers who are actually significant revenue earners for the utility. Again, this requires at the parent input to start off two things: a technical problem, are all the meter manufacturers ready to share all that data, which is open standard. So that's again the challenge. So if they don't share that, if there is a some APIs kind of thing that are created, then how do you actually scale up? Because there are lakhs and lakhs of consumers and lakhs of users. So how do you actually scale up to that level? Where just by having API based data sharing, it's just not possible. So that's the technical part of it. The other thing which is from implementation is you need to again have a good inventory of what meters you are having, what versions of meter you are having, and it is not easy. That kind of a data is not easy. So again, a huge challenge which is in the fraternity of power utility now is well understood. That these are the challenges. But then how to overcome those things just not very clear. So that's just to give you a flavor of how GIS, AMR, these things are very important for implementation, but then there are challenges. And you talk about Ranchal, for example. Ranchal is a state which is, for example, it's a hill, right? How do you create a network over there? Again, huge set of columns over there. And so people have to really overcome these things. So in order to create an integrated utility for the future, there are some very ground level challenges. PFC has said that there are some time limits to this, and of course, really interested to see that how much of it can be done in true spirit, and of course there are genuine issues also which PFC would have to look at sometime in the future. Can this whole scheme be implemented in that time frame as it suggested? But I think the spirit is that there is a need to act now, and this is what the initiative is. So that's on the a bit of the eIndia. A good thing is that this kind of a scheme has never been implemented earlier, and this will form, at least my personal opinion, one of the initial baby steps in creating what is called as a smart grid. A smart grid is nothing where you can actually connect all your data sources, whether it is your transformers, whether it is your capacitors, motorized or not, may not be motorized also, but circuit breakers, in future maybe motorized circuit breakers. So all those things back into your base voltage, which is the operation part. SCADA has already done that. In some places SCADA has not. But that's the initial baby steps which you are taking. So integrate all your the asset part using one digital processors back into the system. So that's the OT part, operation transformation which has to do. Then of course there's the IT part, which is currently underway as part of the group. So, and the real challenge will lie in actually integrating the OT with the IT. Right? Not very many places it has been implemented. I mean, to give you an example, how do you actually integrate a data which is coming from a meter in every 15-minute interval to something which is a billing which is maybe a monthly process, and therefore it's a monthly data, and then analyze on a data. So it's something which is to be reflected, and again something to be thought as to how to integrate this. Data coming into data warehousing, and then of course giving a good analytic part of it as to what makes sense, who are the possible consumers who are possible cases of theft and all those things, do all those very good analytics, which will prevent certain purpose. But having said that, if we can do all these good things, it will ultimately result into benefits which the utilities will do. And which is what? Utilities are looking at, we talked of SAT, so they are looking at saying that how can we have a optimization, or how can we have asset replacement optimization. So they need to know that, do I really need to replace this? So these data will really help it understanding that. So asset replacement, asset cost optimization, or operation optimization, those are the data, or maybe better budget planning. So those are the things that the utility really requires from IT. And I think doing these initial steps as the APDR will actually you're taking the initial steps and coming to that certification. Hopefully the next 5 years. Yeah.